On August 6, 1945, a 4-year-old boy hid behind a tree in Hiroshima. The blast shattered his home and almost his life. But he survived. That little boy is my grandpa. My name is Erin, and his story is why I'm here today. Have y'all heard of Hiroshima before? It's a vibrant city in southwestern Japan, but was once the place where my grandpa experienced one of the most horrific events in human history. That's when the US airplane Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb called Little Boy on the city of Hiroshima, utterly destroying it and killing an estimated 70 to 80,000 people in the blink of an eye. The death toll doubled by the end of the year, and the consequences remain. My grandpa is what we call a hibakusha, an atomic bomb survivor in Japanese. Today, there are fewer than 100,000 hibakusha in the world from both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Their voices are fading, but the lessons they teach us cannot. That fateful day, my grandpa and his family survived only because they happened to be far enough from the epicenter. Oh. Can you go back a slide? Okay. Anyways, that fateful day, my grandpa survived only because they were far enough from the epicenter. For the toddler that was my grandpa, a tree saved his life. For his father, who was closer to the epicenter at the time, being underground saved his life. Okay, and unfortunately, my grandpa's older brother later passed away at the age of 7. My grandpa himself also was once at the brink of death as he battled radiation sickness all throughout his childhood. But miraculously, he recovered. After missing most of elementary school, he started strengthening his body through sports like swimming in middle school. And ultimately, he fought through debilitating health issues and rebuilt his life. Now, he is a retired oral surgeon, and he also raised beautiful twin girls and a boy. One of those twin girls is my mom. So, his story is a relatively happy one, which I'm incredibly grateful for, because if he hadn't made it, then my amazing mom wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be here either. Now, the point is this: nuclear weapons destroy human lives. Even those who survive can have lifelong consequences, such as leukemia, thyroid cancer, skin keloids, radiation sickness, and psychological trauma. This realization has existed ever since the first nuclear weapons dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You may have seen the movie Oppenheimer. It describes his internal struggle as he builds these weapons of mass destruction. The movie captures the honor of leading the most cutting-edge scientific project and the weight of grappling with what that creation would mean for humanity. Now, we've had some very close calls, such as the Cuban Missile Crisis during the 1960s, when the US and Soviet Union almost came to nuclear war. Okay. That's when the US and Soviet Union almost came to nuclear war. John F. Kennedy heroically prevented that from happening, but we came very close to a catastrophic outcome that may well could have destroyed human existence on Earth. Now, ever since then, many people have tried to come up with ways, agreements, and treaties to prevent nuclear weapons from threatening humanity. And many agreements have been reached, especially between Russia and the US, who together possess nearly 90% of the world's nuclear arsenal. For example, the New START Treaty capped the number of deployed strategic nuclear warheads, those ready for immediate use, at 1,550. However, this was the last remaining nuclear arms treaty between Russia and the US, and expired in February earlier this year. There's also the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which aims to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and promote nuclear disarmament. It's supported by 191 countries, including the US. However, challenges remain in its universality and enforcement. So, nuclear arsenals have certainly decreased since the Cold War, from over 70,000 to about 12,000 today. But that number is increasing again. Russia currently has 5,459 nuclear warheads. China is rapidly expanding, having about 600 now, and estimated to have 1,000 by 2030. The United States has about 5,177 nuclear warheads, as it has reduced its total stockpile over the long term. But it's now even considering expansion or modernization in the current nuclear climate. Furthermore, non-nuclear armed states are currently considering creating their own nuclear weapons. So, you may have heard in history class, MAD, or mutually assured destruction, is this idea of nuclear deterrence, that no country will actually use nuclear weapons, because if one does, then it will get struck in return. We are using fear, existential threat, and domination at the global scale. I ask, are we mad to be relying on MAD? Ultimately, the existential threat of nuclear weapons is more present than ever today. So, what can we do? First, we must understand that it is our world that nuclear weapons will destroy. Not really the one of the 80 or 90-year-old who remembers the atrocity of war. We have to think about what to do, because the consequences of nuclear weapons, the uniquely persistent and genetically damaging impact of radiation, is everlasting. Not to mention, a nuclear war could cause a nuclear winter, where massive amounts of smoke and soot block sunlight across the globe, leading to agricultural failure, sub-freezing temperatures, and mass famine. People would be dying by the billions. Okay, so we have this unique responsibility as the next generation of world leaders to think about how to address this issue. And it's really difficult, because these powerful countries, like the US, Russia, and China, they resort to power to achieve their ends. And nuclear weapons are seen, albeit mistakenly, as the ultimate power on the international stage. So, now what do we do? That's exactly what today's theme, brainstorming, is all about. Let's brainstorm together and think about how we can address this issue. So, let's think. There are various ideas. We've tried governmental agreements and treaties. These achieve certain things, right? But a government can be held accountable only to the extent of which its citizens hold it accountable. In a democratic country like the United States, we can tell our leaders how to approach this issue. Thus, we must come together and pressure them to change, to see the nuclear threat not just as a danger, but as an international opportunity to work together towards peace. Simply put, when we brainstorm together, global issues become international opportunities rather than just threats. So, I started doing some brainstorming myself to think about how we can turn this issue into an opportunity. Now, did you know that the President of the United States has the sole authority to launch a nuclear weapon, even when we are not at war? This was shocking to me, and I wondered if there was anything I could do about it. I started doing some research and talked to people about how we can hold the government more accountable and create more responsible nuclear policy. Before I knew it, I found myself in the office of our Congressman, Sam Liccardo, speaking with him and nuclear policy experts to discuss a bill introduced by Congressman Scott Peters called the Nuclear First Strike Security Act of 2025, or H.R. 3564. This bill would require congressional oversight and approval from the Secretary of Defense before any nuclear first strike. That is, except in times of declared war or U.S. allies under nuclear attack, as well as a launch on warning, which is when there's an incoming missile. This bill would be a meaningful check on unilateral power. A great first step and an opportunity I'm forever grateful for. Secondly, I'm working to build a platform to amplify and document Hibakusha, atomic bomb survivors' voices, as I've recorded interviews with my grandpa and Hibakusha living in the US. I hope to call it Messages from Hibakusha, integrating digital storytelling, social media advocacy, and educational programs. It's youth-led with a global vision. So, we can't control what Russia and China do, but if we can change the US government's approach and the broader global perspective, that means something. So, we must come together. Let's come together and try to change it to hopefully change the trajectory of our world. Now, I hope you all will brainstorm with me and think about how we can turn this existential threat into the opportunity it is to work together. After all, the world once brainstormed the ideas and the technology that created nuclear weapons. Now, we must navigate the ideas and cooperation needed to build a more peaceful future. I want to hear all your ideas, as my commitment is to tell my grandpa's story and share the reality of what nuclear weapons create. And that message, I hope, will resonate with all of you, because by putting this issue and opportunity at the forefront of our national and global consciousness, we can change the world. That's my goal. Now, my grandpa is in his mid-80s, and with the passing of the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombings last August, few Hibakusha remain. But I am here, and so are you. As John F. Kennedy put it, we must abolish the weapons of war before they abolish us. And our generation, we can do just that. Thank you.